Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedyan Ravinam Tvameva Sarvam Namadeva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Namadeva Deva. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So where are we in our text?
419.
419. Oops. Messed up here. And he's talking about this deep introversion of the mind, drowning the mind in the self. Let's do the next verse.
Atmanam Jvedi Janiyat Dvijaniyat Ayam Smriti Purushaha Kismitchan Kasya Kamaya Sharira Manush Jaret. When oh sorry, my bad. I read the wrong thing. Section 69, the science of reality, its benefits. Sansidhasya phalam tvet jat jivan muktasya yoginah bahiranta sadananda rasa swadanam atmani. The perfected yogi who is jivan mukta gets this as a result within and without. He enjoys eternal bliss.
Yes. So here we have this technical term, Jivan Mukta, a liberated soul. So let's review. What is enlightenment? What is self-realization? What is moksha? First, we have to understand that it doesn't happen to the self. Both bondage and liberation occur to the mind. The self is ever free. So we're dealing with two kinds of knowledge here. The first is the perfect knowledge. If it's perfect, it means that it doesn't come and go, that it's not subject to change. What is the perfect knowledge? In fact, the only real knowledge of the self. And that is the self-evidence of the self. How do you know you were you? You do not see, hear, taste, touch, smell, emote, or think yourself. The scripture says it is not known by the known instruments of perception. Does that mean it's not known? No, it's absolutely known. Are you you? But how do you know it? Yeah, you do not see, hear, taste, touch, smell, emote, or think yourself. Yet you are. And the scriptures use terms like swayambhu, self-evident, swayamjyoti, self-luminous. Listen carefully. Everybody already has this. That's why the great 20th century saint Meher Baba used to say, everybody's already realized. Don't worry, be happy. So if I go out on Lake Merritt around the lake and see some poor fellow living in a tent, how are you doing today? Oh, I'm so miserable. So sorry. By the way, do you exist? What a stupid question. Of course I exist. What's your existence? Misery. Do you know your misery? Oh, do I know my misery? So he thunders, I am, I know. But his mind is in a very confused state. It is afflicted with suffering. So there's a second kind of knowledge here. There's something that happens to the mind. Technically, it occurs in the Vijnana Maya Kosha. Remember when we studied that in the Panchakosha, the 5 sheets. The subtlest part of the intellect, where's there that agent, the jiva. In Monday night's class, Vidyaranya calls this characteristic Chid Abhas. It's the reflection of consciousness. So what is my bondage? My bondage is in my mind as the result of spiritual ignorance. Somehow I do not grasp that I am that birthless, changeless, deathless reality. I think I'm the body. I think I'm the body plus the subtle body, the personality. And because I have this jiva bhavana, this feeling that I am a person, jiva comes from the root jivjivati, which means to live. But here means the sense that I'm a person. And the root of it, we've learned, is body identification. From that, everything else stems. With this jiva bhavana is always a feeling of incompleteness. I'm restless, I'm discontent. And then my mind presents a goal. I'll be happy when, it'll be better if. Then comes kartavya, literally obligatory actions, meaning I struggle. That is my dukkha, suffering. That is samsara. That is the cycle of births and deaths. That is karma chakra. Well, this didn't do it, maybe I'll try something else. Always trying to feel better, to secure self. Because it's rooted in fundamental ignorance. Never works. What is moksha? Liberation. It is the deeply rooted conviction in the mind, the subtle intellect, based on direct experience. Not that I'm some fabulous person, not that I'm okay as a person, not that I now have self-esteem. In a mind that's been made very quiet, with the attention turned within. Notice the knower. And I see there's no person there. What is it that has this insight? It's the subtle intellect. And then it's able to let go of its ignorance, able to let go of this jiva bhavana. This is the pratyabhijnanam, the recognition that I am that ground of being. It doesn't happen to the self. It happens to the subtle intellect. And it's transformative. Then you are now a jivan mukta, a liberated person, liberated personality, liberated while in this very body. That's how people from the outside see you. For the jivan mukta, their experience is, I'm not a person, I'm not the body. I'm Brahman, I'm the ground of being. I'm not any kind of person. Both bondage was an illusion, deprivation's illusion. I'm Brahman, who's eternally free. Who has this insight? It isn't Brahman, it's the mind. The way it's framed in Buddhism, the buddhi, the subtle intellect, becomes buddha, awake. That's what it means. Now, from the standpoint of the absolute, the highest scriptures will say, bondage isn't real, liberation isn't real, the scriptures are not real, the guru's not real, the disciples not real. Brahman alone is real. Brahma is something else. Is it the self that has that insight? No. It's the subtle intellect. Very important point. The issue is not ontological. Ontology is the philosophical study of being. If the problem were ontological, I would be a crummy little Purusha that needs to undergo a change to become something else. Magnificent Brahman, or get glued on to Brahman, or Brahman likes me, or something like that. What does the subtle intellect have? An epistemological problem. It's a problem of knowing. And I usually give two examples. My favorite is Tarzan. So his parents die in the crash. Baby Tarzan is raised by apes in the jungle. somehow he remembers how to speak English, I guess it is. And he thinks he's a chimpanzee or a gorilla or something like that. Just like you and I think I am the bunny. Then the explorer comes, and there's one version of the story called Greystoke, the story of Tarzan. And then the camera shifts. The explorer comes, says, animal, animal, animal. The camera pans on all these animals in the jungle. Then he goes, man, man. And Tarzan has a realization that he's not a chimpanzee. He's a human being. Now, he doesn't develop an opposable thumb and all this hair falls off his body. And all of a sudden he has a voice box that's able to do speech. Nothing about his being changed, but his understanding of who he is changed profoundly. Where did it change? In his mind. Same thing happens to Moses. Moses is placed in the basket in the Nile. He's found by Pharaoh's daughter and he's raised thinking he's a prince of Egypt. In the movie, the way they figure it all out, there was a blanket in there. I don't think I say this in scripture. But then he finds out as an adult, no, he's not an Egyptian. He's a Hebrew. He's an Israelite. He didn't change skin tone or his features changed. Nothing about his being changed. But his understanding of who he was changed. Profound. Another example I like to use, I like to watch, what's the roadside show that
Antiques Roadshow.
Antiques Roadshow, yeah. True story. So this lady comes with this brooch that was her grandmother's, and she had taken it to a jeweler who said it's costume jewelry worth about $250. And she takes it to the jewelry guy at Antiques Roadshow, and he looks at it and he says, well, actually, that very large stone is not costume jewelry, it's a sapphire. And these are diamonds that are all encrusting around it. And it's set in white gold. It's worth about $250,000. Put it in my sock drawer. Now, the jewel did not change in any way. But the woman realizes the value of it. And therefore, she was able to enjoy it. So right now, if we're in the mind state of ignorance, the self in me is Brahman, whether I know it or not. But if I do not know it, then just like the lady who thought it was costume jewelry, I think I'm my body. I think I'm a miserable worm. I think I got issues and problems. And I have to defend, protect, secure ego. Don't say that to me. It hurts my feelings. Don't you know who I am? Because I think I'm the body plus the personality. Just like the jewelry expert at Antiques Roadshow says, no, this is a sapphire, rather big one, surrounded by diamonds, not custom-based jewelry. Who you are, earthless, changeless, eternal consciousness, which is never touched or hurt, which can't be diminished, which can't be improved, which is without qualities or characteristics of any kind. Yeah, Chidananda, whose nature is bliss, consciousness. Just like the lady with the brooch is no longer ashamed to wear it on a fancy dress because people think it's junk jewelry. She can wear her brooch, knowing this is something great and valuable. You are the pearl of great price. You are the Chintamani, the wish fulfilling gem. You are the Kamadhenu, the milch cow of desire. Your nature, Sat Chit Sukham, existence, consciousness, and happiness. Knowing that, one, I have existential freedom. I don't need to protect, defend, secure the self. Secondly, I know where happiness is. It's the mind free from craving, from longing. And what is this world? It is the play of consciousness. It's all okay. That brings contentment, peace, and joy to the person of steady wisdom, the Jivan Mukta. I was talking with a person, and he asked a very important question. He said, well, I'm not sure I believe in the Vedanta. It sounds like it's a nihilistic teaching to me. You know, you're renouncing the world. Does that mean I no longer have relationships? I don't love. I have no community. I have no purpose in life or any of that sort of stuff. And my answer is no. You don't understand. The person who's ego identified and all caught up with relationship and status, etc., is like a person at a banquet with a thorn in their throat. The world is a banquet. The Jivan Mukta is the only one who can really enjoy it. All the rest of us, poor suckers, are filled with fear. Fear that I'm not going to get what I want. Fear that I'm going to lose what I have. Fear that somebody else is going to take it. Fear of missing out. Fear that I'm not okay, not enough. You're welcome to it if you want. But it's not nihilistic. It's full. It's pure. Nothing to live up to. No rules that we put on ourselves. You no longer have to be a goody-goody person. The Jivan Mukta is able to live with complete authenticity. That isn't freeing. What is? Any thoughts about this?
I have a question, Jim.
Yes, ma'am.
In the stories of like Tarzan or Moses, they only have to hear it one time and they know, right? Why is it so hard, especially with people like us who so want the steady wisdom? Why is it so difficult to change the mind?
Always the same. Attachment. It's always the same. What is it that I think I need? And listen carefully. Most of us yogis are more than willing to renounce our suffering. Someone says something unkind or something annoying, and why can't I give it up? Why can't I give it up? That's the way most of us look at it. But we are unwilling, we're not conscious enough. When the same person says, "Oh, you're so marvelous. I love you. You make me. You have so much power over my feelings. You are important." So forth. That's what we have to give up. Almost always, the attachment happens on the positive side of the teeter-totter.
That's very helpful.
So what we have to do when we get a compliment or we're successful in the work, give it to Krishna. Graciously say thank you and give it to Krishna. You've probably seen me how many times? "Oh, Jim, that was such a great class." "Oh, you're such a fine teacher." What do I usually do?
Yeah.
You think I'm going to let that land? I don't believe a word of it. Never. Be empty. Let it pass through. And it doesn't mean we don't enjoy. So you cook a fabulous meal. I don't know. If you're like me, I love to cook. And when people enjoy the cooking, it brings me joy. But if they turn around and say, "Oh, you're such a good cook. Oh, nobody does it as well as you."
Got it. It's not me.
Because what's going to happen? "Oh, your food, it was in the refrigerator for 4 days. I didn't bother to eat it. I just threw it out." Then how do you feel?
Yeah.
"I worked so hard for that." Or any other dimension. I'm just picking on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because it isn't me doing it.
But it doesn't mean not to enjoy.
Right.
Enjoy it fully. but be prepared to throw it in the garbage. Have you ever seen the artwork that the Tibetan monks make with the colored sand?
Yeah, and then they sweep it away.
And
Yeah.
they spend days doing these incredibly beautiful, I forget what they're called. Are those youngsters?
Mandalas.
Mandalas? Then what do they do at the end?
Sweep it away. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they are completely focused on doing it as
And
perfectly as they can.
enjoying it.
Yeah.
You don't say, "Oh, I'm not going to do the mandala because it's going to get swept away." That's not life.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's very helpful.
So, two kinds of knowledge: the perfect knowledge, the self-evidence of the self. And in the subtle intellect, we realize that I am Brahman. Oh, marvelous. Oh, joy. Infinite bliss is my nature. Be attached. Any thoughts or questions about this out in Zoom land, or any Mike or Puneet? No. Next verse.
वैराग्यस्य फलं बोधो बोधस्योपरिति फलं स्वानन्दानो भवाच्छान्ति एषैवोपरते फलम्. The fruit of dispassion is knowledge. That of knowledge is withdrawal from sense pleasures. The fruit of this withdrawal is the experience of the blissful self, and peace is the result of this experience.
So here is the sequence of experiences of the Jnana Marga, the path of knowledge. So what was the first one?
The fruit of dispassion is knowledge.
So if I develop mature vairagya, remember Shankara's definition way back in the qualifications of a fit student, that desire to give up attachment to all experiences gained through the senses and all idea of self, starting from the body up to including the form of Brahma, the creator, is vairagya. Let go, let go, let go. That quietens the mind. When we've developed at least some vairagya, we begin to be able to tune up the mind, begin to have some experience of our essential nature. Now I can tell, I can see there's nothing there. So what's the fruit of knowledge?
That of knowledge is withdrawal from sense pleasure.
Yes. So rather than thinking that person, place, thing, or condition is what I must have in order to be happy, doesn't mean I don't enjoy the world, but I see it for what it is. It's like a thimbleful of water poured into the ocean. Gita says it's like rivers going into the ocean. Tons of water goes into the ocean. The ocean does not rise. Because my direct experience of reveling in the self, It's always available. Doesn't cost anything. Won't rot your liver. It isn't fattening. You don't have to look your best. You don't have to be young. It's always there. And there's no end to how deeply the mind can revel in the self. Ruthless rule of the mind will return to the experience that's given it the greatest joy. This is why things like crack cocaine and crystal meth are so difficult to overcome, because they're so euphoric. Thank God, God is the most beloved. I have to have a little bit of vairagya in order to begin to get the taste. So the Hebrew psalmist says, taste and see the goodness of the Lord. It's not about Christian communion. Written 1,000 years before that, or at least 500 or 600 years before. When my meditation, when my self-abidance becomes more available, blissful, and it doesn't mean I don't enjoy the world, but it can't addict me like it used to. And a whole lot of it's just too much hard work. For what? Life can become much simpler. We abandon many endeavors, not out of being a goody-goody. Just happens. So, since objects leave us, what happens after that?
The fruit of this withdrawal is the experience of the blissful self.
Mind starts to withdraw from the world more and more, deeply abides. Next verse. Is that the end of this one?
And peace is the result of this experience.
Yes. All right, next verse.
Yadhyuttara bhava purva purvanto nishphalam nivritti paramatripti anando nupama swataha. When there are no succeeding stages, the preceding ones are useless. In a perfect series, automatic cessation of the objective world, supreme satisfaction, and unequaled bliss follow as a matter of course.
So once you start to be able to revel in the self, all those prior practices and your friends start to change. And you start to enjoy hanging with other people who have the taste. You may be doing some outer event like having lunch or just hanging out and stuff like that. But what are you really doing? Oh, you're reveling in the self. Back in 2015, when I was hanging out with this Mahatma Bhuvaneshwarananda, very interesting experience. You know, I would go there in the morning for several hours, have lunch, then I'd come back in the afternoon, and then early evening, everybody would leave. And then one of the people say, Gurudev would like you to stay. Just about. So, you know, they turned some lights on, stuff like that. We were all up on this porch. And it was just a bliss hangout. That's all it was. There was no teaching, no nothing going on. It was just a handful of routines. It was reveling. Not that the people who were there all day were not kind people, but their minds were much more so. Just thanks. Just enjoying the bliss of the sound. What a delight. Next verse.
दृष्टदुःखेष्वनुद्वेगो विद्यया प्रस्तुतं फलं यत्कृतं भ्रान्तिवेदायां नानाकर्म जुगुप्सितं पश्यान्नरो विवेकेन तत्कथं कर्तुमर्हति. The result of knowledge is nonchalance towards worldly sorrows. How can he who performs wild deeds in delusion perform them again when he possesses discrimination?
So, there are no rules for the person of steady wisdom. I like to say the Jivan Mukta is out of control. They have what the Tibetans call crazy wisdom. We're not moving through life from a recipe book. We act spontaneously from a deep, intuitive place, knowing it's all perfect. Knowing the body is moving in the world of name and form just because of the force of the past and the desires of other people. Getting its allotted dose of successes and failures, joys and sorrows. Person of steady wisdom. No particular concern. Well, does that mean they can go be a bank robber or something like that? Probably not. When you see yourself in everyone, himsa, harm, just doesn't happen. Next one.
विद्या फलं स्यादसतो निवृत्ति प्रवृत्तिरज्ञान फलं तदीक्षितं तज्ज्ञानज्ञयोर्य मृगत्र तृष्णाकदो नो चेद्विदां दृष्टफलं अकिस्मात्. Turning away from the unreal should be the result of knowledge. Attachment to the unreal is the result of ignorance. Such is seen to be the case of one who knows a mirage, etc., and one who does not.
Yeah.
Else, what palpable result do the knowers of reality gain?
So if I'm thirsty and I see a mirage, I go rushing toward it to quench my thirst. But if I know it's a mirage, it doesn't tempt me. There's nothing there. So also for the person of steady wisdom. The body moves through the world, and of course, you will have your preferences, but no real attachment or jonesing. It's gone. It's just gone. Doesn't mean you're unkind to people. Probably be even more kind. You're not concerned about what kind of person are they. And if, say, an annoyance comes up, you see it. You may or may not feel like acting on it, but you absolutely know that it's not based in anything real. It's just the force of the past maturity. Does this mean the woman of knowledge never makes mistakes? No, of course, the equipment, according to the world, is going to make mistakes. Equipment is by definition finite. But I like to say, my favorite prayer, oops. We get all these romanticized ideas. Oh, the actions of the Mahatma are perfect. Well, I have news for you. Your actions are perfect too. Puneet, what'd you do today?
Rested mostly.
Yeah, that's perfect. You know how I know that? Yeah. Understand the deeper meaning of it. What's the difference between the fool and the person of steady wisdom? The fool starts judging. Oh, I'm lazy. I stayed in bed all day. You know, what's wrong with me? I'm sick. You know, oh, I was supposed to do blah, 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 blah. Person of steady wisdom. Ah, body sick today. When you know you're Brahman, you don't have to live up to any internalized idea of self. Whew. Over. Next verse.
Ajnana hridaya grante vinasho yatyasheshatah panichhor vishaya kintu pravritte karanam swatah. When the knots of ignorance in the heart have been totally destroyed, What natural cause can prompt a man who is averse to sense pleasures to egocentric action?
Yeah. When the knots of the heart, ignorance, desire, and action are gone, ego-corrupted action are gone. There's nothing to be gained by doing anything. Yet you relax. The body, mind, intellect will act. It's its product. But the person of steady wisdom no longer attributes any grandiose meaning to it. I'm working with this one kid, and I guess he sings very well, and he has a guitar and does that all sort of stuff. And when he was young, everybody was telling him, "Oh, you're special. God has a plan for you. You're different than other people. You're special." And then he's had 15, 20 years of active alcoholism. Now he's on disability. I guess he is special. He's on disability. But I'm supposed to be special. I'm supposed to be doing something significant. Dude, get over it. If the Lord wants you to do something special, He'll specialate you. And if you're supposed to be a worker among workers, that's what you're doing. Freedom comes from having no relationship to this body, mind, intellect. Just watch. Now, the person of steady wisdom needs to be an effective actor. You don't go around telling other people what your interior experience is. They're just going to look at you funny. One, they won't believe you. Two, they're going to think you're either crazy or a pompous ass. So the way to behave in the world is appropriate to the circumstances. Once you feel that crazy wisdom to say or do something different. Does that make sense? All right, next verse.
वासनादुदयो भोग्ये वैराग्यस्य तदावधिः अहं भावोदया भावो बौधस्य परमावधिः लीनवृत्तेरनुपत्ति मर्यादोपरनितेस्तु सा. The culmination of dispassion is when the sense objects do not excite any more desire. Supreme perfection of knowledge is when there is no egoistic feeling. The peak of self-withdrawal is reached when the thoughts which have been merged manifest no more.
Yeah. So again, let's parse this. So the first idea.
The culmination of dispassion is when the sense objects do not excite any more desire.
Yes. Yes. So you see the things of this world. And again, you can have your preferences, but no insistence in them. And the sense objects don't excite you, either positively or negative. Next idea.
Supreme perfection of knowledge is when there is no egoistic feeling.
Yes. One is clear, there's no me there doing the doing. All action under all circumstances is just guna and karma, qualities of mind and the force of the past. I do nothing. I just watch. Some scriptures then frame it, the Lord does all the work. Same intelligence that's spinning galaxies is making your eyes blink. This is how the Master Jesus framed it when he said, I of myself do no thing. It is the Father within that doeth the work. No sense of agency. There's a story from the Christian scripture that I just love. So Jesus and the dudes are walking along the road, and a woman with an issue of blood, the scriptures say, so probably she had a heavy vaginal flow, we don't know what her problem was, comes up. She doesn't even talk to him. She just touches the hem of his garment. Jesus stops. He turns around and says, who has touched me? For he had felt power go out of him. He wasn't doing any healing. He was just so in. Spirit just rushed. Whoever was open to receive cuts out. Wonderful, wonderful articulation. Next verse.
There's one more part to this one.
Oh, to this verse?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What?
The peak of self-withdrawal is reached when the thoughts which have been merged manifest no more.
Yes. So this doesn't mean that you have some sort of insensibility. Although some yogis have had so much desire that they do so much tapas that their minds are pretty much gone, and those are the ones who are fond of nirvikalpa samadhi. Their minds just barely emerge anymore. But what he's talking about here, again using the paradigm of Yoga Vasishta, I think I'm a person, I take goals in the world as real, and I'm compelled to struggle toward them. Those are the thoughts that are problematic. Just those three. That's what self-realization is. Doesn't mean you can't think, doesn't mean you can't write code on the computer, doesn't mean you can't do recipes, doesn't mean you can't go find housing for homeless people. That's not what the verse means. It's not what the verse means. Do your duty. Next verse.
Section 70. Signs of a realized seer. Brahma karataya sada sthitataya nirmukta bahyartadhi anyo vedita bhogya bhoga karano vidraluvad balavat swapna lokita loka vajja jagadidam pashyan vavachilla labdhati raste कश्चित् दनंत पुण्य फल भुक्धन्य समन्यो भुवि On account of constant absorption in Brahman, freed from the sense of reality of external objects, only seemingly enjoying them when offered by others, like one sleepy or like a baby, perceiving the world as one seen in a dream and recognizing it only now and then. Such a man is indeed rare. He is the enjoyer of the fruits of untold merit and is truly held blessed and revered on earth.
Now, we get these descriptions of a person of steady wisdom, a Jivan Mukta, a Sthita Prajna Purusha. This is not for us to be checking out other people. See if Mike is realized that. It's not how we use it. It is for us to check out our own sadhana. Now, I'm going to nuance what Shankara has said here. And I'm going to paraphrase the teaching of Sri Ramana Maharshi. When we study Yoga Vasishta, there's a very famous section called the Sapta Jnana Bhumikas, the 7 stages of knowledge. So a disciple of Bhagavan comes to him and he asks, which of the 7 stages of knowledge does the jnani, the man of liberation, the person of liberation, belong? And Bhagavan says, the 4th. And if you go through the 7 stages of knowledge, it very clearly says realization of the self on the 4th. So this means you either see it or you don't. You either think you're a person or you know you are that space of consciousness. We have what we call 3rd-class jnanis. Some of the scriptures talk about that. Those whose knowledge is tenuous. They're jnanis, they're not technically jivan mukta. These are people in what I call the yo-yo state. Sometimes I know, but sometimes ignorance overcomes me and I fall down into ego identification, and then that burns out and I know again. So there's still strong prarabdha of ignorance. But they are technically women and men of knowledge. So I like to phrase it that if you're in this state, at least now you have something real with which to work. Before that, it's just faith. I still feel like a person. I always feel like a person, but I believe the scriptures that I am Brahman. I'm going to continue to do sadhana until I have an experience of that to some degree. Beyond that state is sthita prajna, when you burn up the vasanas to the point where your wisdom is steady without effort. You don't need to discriminate anymore. You know all the time you are Brahman. So then, this disciple of Bhagavan says, if that be so, then why have 3 more stages been enumerated by the scripture and extolled? And Bhagavan says, these are not stages of bondage and release, liberation. These have to do with the experiences of the realized soul. Listen carefully. They are karmic. They are not to be achieved by mere will or effort. In fact, if you're making efforts to achieve some state, You're not even a jnani yet. The mark of the person of knowledge is they've given up struggle. So it has to do with how deeply the mind absorbs in the sound. Now, this used to really confuse me. So all the way back to the mid-70s when I'm in the ashram. And then there would be a bunch of people in the ashram and they'd have this weird discussion. Well, Swamiji may be realized, but Baba Muktananda is fully realized. And then this great Sufi master came to town, Guru Bawa. He was over 100 years old and in the face of like a baby. He had been a black magician when he was earlier, in his earlier life. Incredible saying. Oh, Guru Bawa is completely, fully realized. No, these are not, someone's more realized than another. You either see your self nature, you don't. Now, how deeply the mind can revel in no end to that. These are post-enlightenment samadhis. And they come because, oh, I can't help myself. I just have to meditate. Reveling in the self. So what comes to my mind, you ever had the sense of, oh, someone tells you about a new recipe and you, oh, that sounds really interesting. I've got to try that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're not going to get paid. It's not about somebody going, oh, Wendy's so fabulous. You can't help yourself. You're a fucking chef. Pardon my French. It interests you. You delight in it. Mm-hmm. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if samadhi is something that interests you and you delight in it, then you will naturally practice it. And there's no end. Another person may practice a short period of time. God, really deep. You and I enjoy our meditation every morning. And samadhi's a little on the shallow side. All right, Lord, it's in your hands. I'm grateful for what I have. Because it's not to be achieved by mere will or effort. It's karmic. It's the result of merit accrued in other lives. So you don't want to be jonesing for it. We read a shloka like this, and I'll just tell you about me when I was reading through this first time. Well, I want that, that sets up a whole nother desire problem. You see that?
Oh, yeah.
But if I enjoy reveling in the sound, what opportunity do I have to introvert my mind? Abhyasa Vairagyacha, that's what Patanjali says. Practice, renunciation. So again, what Shankara says here, we read about this accomplishment. And you and I can feel it when we're around a person like that. If you have the great punya to get what we call darshan, comes from the root drish, which is to see. But when we get a Mahatma's darshan, it means we get their borrowed glory. They're so full of the bliss of Brahman that it spills over, and we get the runoff. And they can show us what a human being's capable of. That's what it's like. Oh, yes. What a delight. This is the great Maha. It's very humbling to get a chance to meet someone like that. Okay, this is a good place to stop. What verse are we on for next week?
427.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari